Hello, hello. How are you guys doing today? It looks like my connection is a little choppy, so if you join in, let me know if you're there. Let me know how it sounds. If it sounds crazy, I won't waste my time, but hopefully someone will jump in. I'd love to have your questions if you have questions about macros. If you happen to not notice, I just released, launched, whatever word you want to use, my macro coaching. Super excited about that because this has been part of my vision for a long time, and I plan to build on that. But for right now, you can get a personalized booklet with it's 18 pages, and what you do, you buy it, it's going to take you to a form that you have to fill out with a lot of questions about you so that I can dial in your macros for you personally, and how your eating preferences are. It even has I'll even take into account if it's, if you're vegetarian, or if you happen to already know that low carb works for you and you love to eat that way. I don't recommend this as a starting point for anybody to jump on the low carb bandwagon. So the thing about macros is you have your starting point and you stick to it, and you do your best, and you adjust it over time. It's not like that's the secret key for you forever, because let's say a person starts out at 250 pounds and they start a macro counting program. Their goal is fat loss, and let's say they a few weeks down the road they go from 250 pounds to 230 pounds. It might be time to recalculate their macros because they are in a smaller body. Their body their metabolic rate is going to change, and you need to adjust for that. So that's where the benefit comes in of having not just buying the booklet and you're on your way, but having the 8 weeks of coaching. So that is one reason, so I can be there to adjust things for you. And adjustments aren't always just made as you lose weight or gain muscle, but adjustments are also made so depending on however your macros start, your fat, protein, and carbs are going to be split up in different percentages. And, it's kind of an experimental process. So some people will do great right off the bat with the percentage of their fat ratio to carb ratio to protein ratio. And sometimes we need to change that depending on the person. Some people, their bodies burn fat as fuel more efficient than others. Some people burn carbs as fuel more efficient than others. And a lot of times we don't really know that until we try. And it doesn't mean that it's a failure, but it's just something that you have to try. So that's another reason to have do the 8-week coaching, which really is not much. The idea is if you're going to have you pay for my time for coaching, that's really like a minimum before we start to get somewhere. So that's by no means supposed to get you to a gigantic end goal, but then you can always, purchase the one-on-one coaching again. So that's the idea behind the 8-week time frame. So also, if you're just somebody who needs to be held accountable, if you're somebody who you have a history of signing up for things and you pay for it, but you don't even do it, then having one-on-one accountability with me as a coach is going to be a great reason to do that, because I will be checking in with you on a weekly basis to be like, how is it going, checking in to see if you are working out. If you're not, that's going to play a factor too, and what we need to adjust and how you feel when you're eating certain foods. And it's really based off of how you feel and the progress you're making, and then my part as a coach just to encourage you and guide you along the way. So like I was saying, if you're a person who has a history of not sticking to things unless you have someone there to hold your hand along the way, that's a great reason to do the coaching. What else did I want to say about macros? Oh, so if you've listened to my podcast episodes about macros, and I didn't say this on the podcast because I thought, well, makes things more complicated. I'll get to it another time, but I'm going to mention it here, and I'll talk about it again another time too. But as I've said on, I think 4 or 5 podcast episodes now, just to quickly review, carbs have 4 calories per gram. Protein has 4 calories per gram. Fats have 9 calories per gram. Now, here's the little part that I didn't talk about yet. Alcohol has 7 calories per gram. Now, the way you should track this if you're tracking macros, because this does, it just throws a wrench in the whole thing. It's like one more thing to calculate. If you don't drink alcohol, you don't have to worry about it. And it's also really, I don't want to encourage anybody to, I'm never going to be that person's like, you should never drink alcohol. It's just bad for you. You got to enjoy life and, enjoy things when you want to, but it does make things a lot more complicated. Plus, if you do some Googling and reading, if you're trying to build muscle, drinking alcohol can really hinder that. But again, that's another whole issue on its own. But this is also where using an app to track your macros comes in handy, because you're not going to get protein from alcohol. And if you put it, using an app like MyFitnessPal, and like I said a couple days ago or yesterday, unfortunately, now you have to pay for it to track macros, which really stinks. But anyway, let's say you're using, there's also another one called My Macros Plus. It's the plus sign. So My Macros is one word and the plus sign with no spaces. My Macros Plus is another one. I'm not sure what the pricing is. And that one used to be free too a long time ago, so I'll have to check. But you don't have to use an app. You can Google all the macros for food as well. So what was my point? About alcohol. Oh, so if you're using an app, you can just put in like 1 shot of tequila and it's going to calculate it and it'll deduct it from your daily macros that you've told it. What else? What else did I want to say? Oh, this was something I said on the podcast, today's episode of the podcast. And when I listened to it, this happens almost every week. I listen to the episode and I'm like, oh, I wish I would have said this a little different. Or, oh, I wish I would have said this along with it. Oh, I really hope they didn't interpret it this way. So that happens to me every week, but I can't go back and change it. So if you happen to listen, now what was it? Give me a second. Oh, I know what it was. So in the podcast, I used the example, like I said, something like, let's say your macros break down to where you should have 150 grams of protein per day. And I use the example because I was quickly trying to make the point that from day one, it's okay if you don't hit that right on the dot. But I think I use the example like, if you're supposed to hit 150 and you end up hitting 165 or 130, I think I said that's not bad for a beginner, and that's not bad for a beginner. But the idea is to really hit that number and come as close to it as you can. And so when I said that's not bad for a beginner, I mean like your first 1 or 2 weeks trying it. By your 3rd or 4th week of counting macros, you should be coming closer to like, 5 or 10, give or take 5 or 10 grams within that target number. And, if I'm coaching somebody, I'm not going to be like, shame, you were 2 grams short, because that's still really close. And sometimes, if you're like 2 grams short and it's the end of the day, you're like, what am I going to eat with 2 grams of protein and no grams of fat and no carbs in it? So that's where it gets really fussy at the end. But that's why a lot of people like it too, because it kind of becomes a game for some people to really like, let's hit that number and get better and better at it. And it can be fun, but then it can start to get obsessive, which is questionable zone too. So I wanted to say that and point out, you don't have to stress out if you don't hit your numbers exactly, but you do really want to try to get close to them, because the more consistently you can hit the numbers, the faster you're going to reach your goal, whatever the goal is. If it's fat loss or gaining muscle or weight loss or whatever your goal is, the closer you're going to come to hitting the macro numbers that are right for you, the more progress you're going to see. And that's kind of the whole point, right? So I wanted to say that. And if you do run into any questions, please join my private Facebook group. And if you questions about macros just pop into your head randomly, you can post them in there anytime. What else? Yeah, so just let me know if you have questions about macros whenever they pop up, and I'm going to keep sharing more info. So also, too, I'll let you guys know if anybody's been watching, wondering like, geez, she's doing a lot of videos lately. So I'm doing a challenge where in one of my coaching group for health coaches, my coach's coach, she has challenged us to go live or at least have a video for 14 days in a row. So I'm trying to win this thing. And you guys benefit because you get more information from me. And I'm trying to dedicate myself to these 14 days and to show my face a lot more often beyond that. So thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Join the Facebook group if you haven't already. I would love to see more people in there, and have a fabulous day. Bye.